Chanuka Sameach. The first halacha we learn in Shulchan Aruch about Chanuka, taken from the Gemara Masechet Shabbat Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Bet, is the Lola Mispid Bahon. It's prohibited to offer and present eulogies on Chanuka. Earlier today, prior to the onset of Chanuka, beautiful eulogies were presented in memory of Harav Hagaon, Rav Gedalia Dov ben Avram Schwartz, Zechat Tzadik Livracha. This unique blend of sagacity and sensitivity, of Torah wisdom and worldliness, of an ability to both carry himself with great hadrat panim, a great sense of majesty, and a manner that was dignified, and at the same time, never allowing that to conflict with a warmth and an effusiveness with all with whom he interacted. I'd like to present, instead of words of eulogy, which may go over the line, even though I do have what to say about his great contribution to me personally, and I know to our community at Or Torah, and frankly, to the entire Jewish world. I'd like to present instead the words of Rav Schwartz himself from the last Chanuka before the unfortunate events a few months later when he had his stroke. I think these words are incredibly timely, and who better but Rav Schwartz to present them to us. I know I took great chizuk from them, and I hope you will as well. Here they are.
But even there's a personal message. When the Torah describes the trials and tribulations of Yosef, he suffers from a lot of emotional things first from the brothers, from the family, and he's thrown into a pit, and he's thrown into a dungeon. He has what we would call in a lifetime of a person, highs and lows. Sometimes you have a person each individual in their personal life has times of great elation, seems to be of success and pride, and other times there's depression, there is pessimism, and nevertheless, Yosef never allowed himself to remain in that state, what we would say in a spiritual dungeon. He always survived, he came out. That's a lesson, not only from the standpoint of the Jewish experience of the totality of living a Torah life, but for each individual, we have to understand there are highs and lows in a person's life. He has to be able to overcome the depression and pessimism that sometimes every one of us, and no one really could be excluded if he's a true feeling, sensitive human being, suffers from some of these emotions. But nevertheless, he comes out on top. That's what Yosef represents. And I think in the end, the Ner Chanukah, the light of Chanukah itself, represents that optimism. In spite of everything that took place, the whole Nes, the way the rabbis say, and Rashi says it in Masechta Shabbos, Al Mai Chanukah, on what was the Nes established by the Chachamim, not so much for the wars, but for the light, the Nes of Chanukah, which represents an optimistic view of illumination, of being light, of bringing light and out of darkness. Because when a person is in a dark place, that's a very pessimistic type of feeling. It's very it's depressing. When you bring light into a room or into a place, when the sun shines, we become much more of light-minded in a sense, more optimistic about the day, about the future. And that's what the Ner Chanukah should bring us to, that realization. And we all should hope and pray that in spite of all the different things that are happening in the world, and there are many dangerous events that take place from day to day, you only have to listen to the news reports. Nevertheless, the Jewish people remain steadfast as the eternal Jewish people, looking to light and optimistic view of the future, and also ultimately the Bias Girl Tzedek, the true redemption of Am Yisrael for Klal Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael. Bias Girl Tzedek b'mheira b'yameinu, a Freilich and Chanukah to all.
When Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was on his deathbed, the students came to visit with him, and they applied to him the superlative Ner Yisrael. When I think of that Gemara, Ner Yisrael, they call him the lamp of Israel. I wonder if as Talmidim, they weren't steeling themselves to prepare themselves for the sure knowledge that nobody's Rebbe lives forever. And yet, if they could give him the moniker Ner Yisrael, then his light would continue to shine even after he had left the world. Harav Hagaon, Harav Gedalia Dov ben Avram Schwartz, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, Zor Lichtman Gan Eden. May his light shine from Gan Eden for all of us as we're lighting our candles and as we're growing, hopefully, in our Torah and our mitzvot, to take inspiration from this Ner Yisrael. Amud Hayamini, Patisha Chazak, this man who was the great pillar and who was the great strong hammer, as it was described about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Wishing everyone a Chanuka Sameach and Yehi Zichro Baruch.